What's up everybody, my name's Big Cam and welcome back to another movie review, and today we are talking about 2025's Superman. And James Gunn's new Superman is out now in theaters, and this wonderful poster here, just like kind of retro style. He's got his foot up like Captain Morgan, the cape's flowing, but it's like he's standing on the Superman symbol. David Cornsweet. I wasn't sure how I was going to like the suit, wasn't sure how I was going to like him in the role. This guy is Superman. You know, his face, his jawline, it's just perfect. The suit, I think, looks really good. The reds, the pops of yellows, you know, like the red pops really well. The blue looks really good. It looks like it has like this material. Like, I can't wait to get the Hot Toys figure to see how much details on this thing up close and personal. There was also this other poster that says, "You just have to look at the sun and believe in miracles." And it's like this dope Superman poster, but it doesn't have anything to do with the movie. I was just curious, you know, what the deal is with that. But, you know, getting into a little bit of spoilers, I'm going to try not to spoil it for the people out there that haven't seen it. And for those people that just want a general review, I really did like it. Although I'm the type of person, I'm sitting there trying to figure it out the whole time, right? So I'm watching the movie and I'm at like the beginning of the movie trying to figure out what's going to happen in the middle. And then in the middle of the movie, I'm trying to figure out what happens at the end. And I'm building up what's going to happen in my head. And sometimes you do that and you build up like, oh, this is going to be a crazy reveal or something like that. And then you see it coming and you let yourself down, you know what I mean? That type of thing. But also, like, I have a hard time my first time around really getting into a movie and liking it and just enjoying it for what it is. Like, the last time I was really able to do that was like Deadpool Wolverine, where like I wasn't trying to figure out how it was gonna end. I just was sitting there next to my buddy Langone, just absorbing it and just taking it all in and loving it for what it is, you know, and just loving that we had Deadpool and Wolverine on screen at the same time. I didn't care what happened in between. I was just like, this is great, we have Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine. Whereas Superman, I'm so much more interested in like what's going on behind the scenes, you know, like how did we get here? Because also James Gunn jumps right into the middle of things, you know, like this isn't an origin story. We jump in damn near 3 years into him being Superman. Now, granted, you can connect the dots and figure out what's happened in between here. But if we were going to jump in, I don't think we necessarily need the origin story, you know, the Rocket, the childhood, you know, him finding out his powers. We don't need to see that again. But what I would have loved to seen is maybe year 1, year 2, you know, maybe trying to figure out his name as Superman, kind of like the Batman movie with Robert Pattinson, where he's a year 1 or 2 Batman, and he's not necessarily Batman yet. He's going by vengeance, you know, like, and by the end of the movie, he figures out why he needs to be the Batman and what this symbol needs to be for this city. And, you know, we're still waiting on that sequel for Matt Reeves, so, like, that will be coming very soon. The script's done, so that will probably be the next thing that they're really trying to get out. But James Gunn's also working on a Batman the Brave and the Bold, so maybe there's going to be 2 different Batmans. I don't know. I would be happy with, you know, an older Batman with a Bat family against this Superman, and he's like this older figure. But I would also love to see like a Superman and Batman the same age, like, you know, whatever, mid-30s or whatever it is, late 20s, mid-30s, and, you know, like a younger team that, you know, can go into the future for the next 20 years and be Batman and Superman together in this DC universe and build it out and, you know, have multiple Superman movies, multiple Batman movies, Justice League movies, you know, like, I can't wait to see all of this shit. But like I'm saying, most of the movie I'm trying to figure out, oh, what could this lead to, what could that lead to, and I'm not just absorbing what's in front of me. But now that I know how it ends and what's going to happen, I feel like I can go into the second time watching it and I might like it even more, I might like it less, I don't know. But I'm thinking I'm going to like it even more, and I'm going to just be able to really get into what the movie is and really enjoy it. And my biggest gripe with it walking out of the theater was that it was, you know, the setup of this universe. So, you know, people like the Justice Gang, you know, Guy Gardner, Hawkgirl, Isabella Merced playing Hawkgirl, Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner, Eddie Geddeji's Mr. Terrific, who is awesome. He is terrific, one might say. But I love this crew and I want to see them so much. Like, I want to see them ASAP. Luckily, we'll be able to see Guy Gardner in the Lantern series coming up, and apparently he said that he drops the most F-bombs he has in his entire career in this TV show, which is just hilarious that we're gonna get like Guy Gardner just cussing it up. But also, like, you know, there's gonna be violence and swearing in that show, so it is gonna be an HBO show, kind of like The Penguin, but it's gonna be Lanterns with Kyle Chandler as Hal Jordan and Aaron Pierre as Jon Stewart. Aaron Pierre. I always confuse his name with Aaron Perrine of Phase Hero, but Aaron Perrine is a legend. Aaron Pierre is Green Lantern. And then, like, Crypto's super cute, you know, like to see where he wakes up, he's sleeping on his chest, you know, that was very cute. And, like, going back to the farm, there's, like, plenty of scenes that are very, like, heartfelt and emotional and really got me feeling. But, you know, audience score and critic score for Rotten Tomatoes, the critic score debuted at 91% with 55 reviews, and the last time I looked, it is currently sitting at 85% with 165 reviews and a 96% audience score with over 1,000 reviews. So 96, it's damn near perfect for the audience. 85 for critics with over 165 critics, that's pretty damn good. So this is just saying to me, this is a good friggin' movie. It's 2 hours and 9 minutes long, PG-13, an action superhero comic booky movie. I really enjoyed it. I loved seeing this post going around that, like, of Superman, I cannot wait to watch an illegal alien absolutely ruin the plans of a billionaire. And yeah, that's, you know, I love to see it. Love to see people getting mad online and forgetting what Superman actually is. And, you know, James Gunn said he was an immigrant, and they were like, what? He's from America. He's an alien, one. He came from space and crash landed on Earth, which is, you know, coming from somewhere else, landing in America, like all Americans did. If you forget about that as well, you know, all of us are immigrants here in America. That's what it's about. But also, you know, a third thing to think about there, this is a fictional character. If you're mad that he's an immigrant, you have so much bigger problems that you could be talking about right now. What a loser. Getting back into the cast of this movie, David Cornsweet's Superman, Lois Lane, Rachel Brosnahan, Lex Luthor, friggin' Nicholas Hoult, Skylar Gisondo, I'm sorry if I butchered any of these names, but he's playing Jimmy Olsen. Wendell Pierce as Walter White, or Perry White. Walter White's Breaking Bad. Perry White as, like, the head of the Daily Planet. Love that. Crypto, so funny. Eddie Gathegi's Mr. Terrific. Isabella Merced's Hawk Girl. I believe that's Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner. And then Sarah Samparo as Miss Tessmacher. And I don't know, man. I don't know what I was hoping for, but it definitely gave me everything that I would have wanted. But I was rewatching all of these older Superman movies, and, you know, David Cornsweet is a phenomenal Superman, but he spends most of this movie as Superman. We don't get nearly as much Clark Kent as I would want. And it just goes to show that, like, his Clark Kent is good and does look quite different. It's like, you know, it's funny that, like, he's got this slicked back hair when he's Superman and he's, like, flying around. Yeah, because his hair slicks back so fast because of the speed that he's traveling. But what happens when that hair dries naturally? You know, like, if I didn't have my hair pulled back in a ponytail, it would look a lot like David Cornsweet's Superman right now. It gets all curly and what's the word? Like, it just, like, poofs up, you know? Like, it has a mind of its own. It just curls up and just kind of frizzes. That's the word. You know, just frizzes and poofs and just kind of sits there until I put product in it or, you know, pull it back. But I feel like his Superman and Clark Kent are going to be very different, much like Christopher Reeve Clark Kent. And, you know, the two of them side by side in this image as Superman. I mean, Christopher Reeve, to me, will always be the best Superman, and that original Superman will always break ground as, like, what it did for this genre and what it can do as, like, Superman. But the technology's come so far that, like, what David Cornswit's Superman is able to do is unbelievable, and it looks phenomenal. But I will still say that Christopher Reeve's Clark Kent is the best out of all of them, and Henry Cavill's is the worst. I mean, Henry Cavill's Superman looks good, but he's also the only one without trunks, so now he's missing out, you know? Like, every time you see him, he's like, oh my god, he's naked! But let's be real, when you see Henry Cavill's Clark Kent, you're like, yeah, there's no way no one is like, he puts on glasses, no one knows that he's Superman. Like, at least Christopher Reeve's Clark Kent and David Cornswit's Clark Kent, you know, they do some kind of effort to make it look like not just Superman, you know, where like Henry Cavill's jaw is so Superman that like no matter what with those glasses on, you're like, that's just Henry Cavill, you know, like it doesn't change at all. You know, and I rewatched that movie last night, and that's still a good movie. I think, you know, the Snyder fans are so dumb that where they're saying like, oh, this is my Superman, you can't watch this one. Why are you so gatekeepy? Like, you can like James Gunn's Superman and like Christopher Reeve's Superman and go back and watch Zack Snyder stuff. You can like all of them. I like all of them. But I also can acknowledge that, like, you know, Zack Snyder's Superman is like this dark, dark universe, and it's not like Superman. Like, where if you watch James Gunn's Superman or Christopher Reeve's Superman and then you watch Man of Steel, there's a vibe that you're like, I like this vibe that Zack Snyder was going for, and like it's a dark vibe with like Russell Crowe, and like the cast is great. Lawrence Fishburne playing Perry White, you know, like the cast is phenomenal. It's still great on paper, but then he just doesn't make his Superman, right? Like there's no like he doesn't save like civilians really in that movie at all, except for like the beginning. Like he destroys Metropolis and all these people die, you know, and he's just kind of like, oh, I'm off fighting, sorry, you know. Where like this Superman will do anything to make sure that everybody survives, you know. Like he's catching buildings, he's saving squirrels, you know, like catching girls from like or saving dogs from getting stepped on, you know, like catching girls from getting exploded barrels hit her, you know. Like this Superman is so heroic, and honestly, I can't wait to see more of him. Like, James Gunn did such a great job in this set photo with the Justice Gang with James Gunn. I can't wait to see more of this Justice Gang, and, you know, maybe we get a Justice Gang movie, or maybe it turns into a Justice League. But, you know, spoilers now, getting into some more spoiler stuff. Lex Luthor, at one point, you know, if you're wondering if you can go bring a kid to this movie, I'd say yes. There is one part in the movie that would be maybe fucked up for a kid, and that's the scene in this, you know, vault, whatever, this area they're in this picture, and Lex has a revolver, and he's playing Russian roulette with this revolver, and spinning around and shooting, and just being like, ooh, that one was close. Does it again, and shoots the guy in the head, and goes, I thought that would have lasted longer. He goes, I'll bring back somebody else that you care about to kill. And like, so, you know, some guy dies brutally. They don't necessarily show the bullet or the blood splatter or anything like that, but, you know, a guy does brutally get murdered by Lex Luthor in this movie, so, you know, there's that. But also, his ass gets stuck in prison by the end of this, and he's going to Belle Reve, so maybe that connects into Peacemaker Season 2, or maybe Creature Commando Season 2, who knows. But Lex Luthor is in the same place as Waller and all those, you know, monsters. That ain't going to end well, but I can't wait to see Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor again. He was so good. It was also great to see Metamorpho and like Baby Joey and that whole scene. I was like, this is wild, but you know, Superman's doing anything to protect this baby. And Metamorpho, he needs some help. You know, like I also loved that Superman didn't feel incredibly OP in this movie like he does most of the time. Like in the Christopher Reeve ones, as much as I love that Superman, his Superman is so OP, like his laser vision can just like do anything at a certain point, you know, and they lose a grip on like who this character is, and they're just kind of like, that wall needs to be fixed. All right, laser fixed vision. Like, no, no. This Superman uses his powers realistically, I think, and also isn't OP. He bleeds, he gets hurt, you know, like, he fails, you know, he's not the guy that can just do anything and save anybody at any time. He is incredibly powerful, but there's other metahumans on this planet that can help him out, you know, like, so he's not alone, which is where the Justice Gang and Justice League will come in, I hope. But there's going to be a second movie, and also, you know, TV shows and spin-offs, but I think James Gunn is connecting them all really well, and we'll talk more about that in a second when we talk about, like, the end of the movie and the post-credit scene. But we do know 100% that Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner is going to be in Peacemaker Season 2 and the Lanterns TV show, so if you didn't like that bowl cut, get used to it, because you're going to be seeing it a lot more often. But I loved this part where, like, make a move, Big Blue, you know, and Guy Gardner gets up in his face. So good. But let's talk about my girl here, Isabella Merced. Oh, at the premiere, she had this sick dress on. She looked so gorgeous, her hair. And then let's talk about her as Hawk Girl. The only thing I didn't love about her was, like, every time she's on screen flying, they just, like, throw in this hawk screech, and she's like, ah! You know, like, I don't know if they needed that. You know, she could have just gone, ah, ah, you know, it didn't need to be like this, you know, like hawk screech, but I get it. She's Hawk Girl. It is what it is. But the mask, the mace, the wings look really good. I love Isabella Merced, and it's just crazy to me that she was filming this Superman movie. You know, this came out in theaters, and then on HBO just a couple months ago, she was Dina in The Last of Us Season 2, which is just wild. Wild that, like, this girl's having the moment of her career right now. You know, she went from Alien Romulus to The Last of Us to Superman, and now she's, like, in James Gunn's circle, and she's like, I did this movie just for James Gunn, you know, so I hope to be in his circle now, and I'm sure she will be. Whatever he makes, I'm sure he's gonna go, hey, you know, Peacemaker Season 2, hey, Isabella, you wanna come do this? Hey, you wanna come do this? You know, and, like, there's cameos in this movie that, you know, probably wouldn't have been able to happen unless it's James Gunn going, hey, you wanna come by and do this real quick? Like, yeah, he's gonna be able to get a lot of things that Marvel probably can't, because Marvel's gonna have to pay, where James Gunn's just gonna go, like, hey, you wanna come hang out for a while? And people are like, hell yeah, I'll come hang out, you know, like, people love him, you know, like, I can see why. But let's talk about the most standout character of the movie, and that's Mr. Frickin' Goddamn Terrific, with his T-Spears and Eddie Gateji stealing scenes and his fair play jacket. You're gonna see this jacket in this Halloween costume everywhere this October. But I can't wait to see Mr. Terrific come back, you know, and he's like this genius, but he also kind of doesn't like people, you know, he's sick of people type of shit. But I don't know, something about this guy, like, I don't know if a solo movie would do well, like, call it Mr. Terrific. I'm not sure if that would perform well in theaters. I don't know if he's that known a character, even after the Superman movie. I don't know if it would perform worldwide as well, but maybe like an HBO Lantern show or something like that, or maybe he's just a character that shows up all the time. I wouldn't be mad, but I know for sure, and I'm not alone, that I need more Mr. Terrific in my life. But what I also need is more of that Rachel and David, that kiss, that final, like, would you like an interview? Sure. And then she gives them, like, you know, big smooch, and they fly and they kiss in the middle of this hotel, and, you know, she tells him she loves him, gets that back for him, you know, like, God, so much heart, just giving me chills thinking about it. Like, James Gunn, you fucking crushed it. But also, you know, there was this image released when they were filming, way back when they were filming this in Cleveland, and we saw this image and we were like, huh, why are they just, like, looking up at a wall? What could they be filming? Little did we know that this scene right here that they're filming is the post-credit scene, and it's not too big a spoiler, but, you know, spoilers if you don't want to know. The post-credit scene, they're standing there looking at the wall, and Mr. Terrific had closed this rift that had been opened, you know, in the ground, and, like, Metropolis was about to get sucked into a black hole, and he closed it, but when he closed it, it seems the building is a little bit off, you know what I mean? So, like, it's not flush together, it's like a little, one part of the building sticking out, one part's not, and Mr. Terrific's like, what do you want me to do? Move them back and then put it back together? And he's like, well, yeah. And then he, like, walks away all pissed, and Superman's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to point it out. Oh, I could be such a jerk sometimes, you know, like, it's just so funny seeing David Cornswith, Superman, like, he doesn't swear, he goes, hey, you know, instead of go, what the hell, Crypto? He goes, what the hey, dude? What the hey, dude? You know, talking about Crypto, I'm like, oh my god, like, this David Cornswith Superman couldn't be better. But, like, right before the post-credits, we get a shot of Supergirl, friggin' Millie Alcock, runs in, and she, like, is drunk, and he does this quick little line where he's like, she likes to go to planets with red suns where, you know, booze can affect her system and she can get drunk, where they can't get drunk on Earth, which is interesting little note that, like, the yellow sun makes it so they're so powerful that they can't get drunk, but on a red planet they can. And we know in her movie, so, like, leading into her movie, Crypto is her dog, right? So he was fostering the dog, just watching Crypto for his cousin Kara, or Kara, whatever. And Millie Alcock here, in her movie, is going to be a drunk Supergirl, apparently, who's on her 21st birthday. So she's going to be on like this drunk bender, drinking on different planets out in space. So this is going to be more of a cosmic story, I think, not really set on Earth, like Superman was. And, right, so she's going to be flying around doing her thing on these different planets and getting drunk for her 21st birthday with Krypto. And then at some point, they're going to encounter a drunk, drinking, probably Lobo, played by Jason Momoa, and she's going to fight him, maybe with Krypto. I don't know if that's a good pitch or not for that movie, but I'm into it. I'm like, here, okay, I'm here for that. You know, so like that's one of the post-credit scenes. And then, what were the other two? Oh, one of them's just Krypto and him sitting on the moon. And then the other one, the end post-credit scene, is the one that I just talked about with Mr. Terrific and Superman looking at the building. So the post-credit scenes ain't that wild, but like the end of the movie right before the post-credit scene showing Supergirl was wild, you know, and there's a brief cameo in there by Peacemaker at some point, just talking about Lex and Superman and that type of shit, and just talking shit. But, you know, it's funny as hell. All of a sudden you're like, oh, John Cena. You know, there's a Bradley Cooper cameo in there somewhere. I won't tell you who he's playing, but all of a sudden you're like, oh, Bradley Cooper. Oh, right, Rocket. Yeah, he got him back. You know, like, but this time he's not just a voice of a raccoon. You get to see Bradley Cooper's face, although brief. As far as James Gunn's movies, Guardians are still going to be at the top of my list for me. I love Guardians 1 and 2. I love Guardians 3 as well, but that third movie is so sad that it's not as rewatchable for me. Where, like, The Suicide Squad is great, also not incredibly rewatchable, but probably the most rewatchable out of his movies, other than maybe Guardians 1. Guardians 2 is also incredibly rewatchable, but the end sequence with like the fireworks and Yondu and the tears that come out of my face hurts. So I think Superman will be the most rewatchable of his movies, I think, you know, and I'll be able to go, like, as soon as this comes out on Max, I'll watch it 5 times that weekend, you know what I mean? Like, so I can't wait to feast my eyes on this more and more. But if I had to rank them, I'd probably put like Guardians 1 and 2, then Superman, then The Suicide Squad, then Creature Commandos, then Peacemaker. And like Guardians 3 is like at the bottom because I like everything else, but everything else doesn't make me cry as much as Guardians 3. You know what I mean? So like I love that list, but I would say Superman's like in the middle somewhere for me. But as far as Superman movies ranking against other Superman movies, just to close out today's episode and review, my favorite Superman movie and the best Superman movie is still Christopher Reeve's first OG Superman. It's just the score, the John Williams score is tremendous. And then I'd put James Gunn's Superman up there second. You know, as far as rewatchability, those two movies are the movies I want to watch when I think about Superman. Now, the Donner Cut I just watched recently, and there was a movie review out for Superman 2, the Donner Cut, out on the channel now. Go check that out if you haven't. And that came out yesterday. But the Donner Cut I ended up really liking, so that comes in number 3. And then the Lester Cut, now that I've watched the Donner Cut and the Lester Cut kind of back to back, I think, you know, the way you should watch the old Superman movies, you should watch 1, the Donner Cut, then you should watch the Lester Cut number 2, then you should watch the Lester Cut number 3 with Richard Pryor's Superman, and that's actually not that bad, and then you should watch Quest of Peace number 4 Superman, and then go, you know, Superman Returns, Man of Steel, you know, and then go chronologically from there. But I think watching, you know, the 2 Donner Cut movies, 1 and 2 back to back, and then watching 2 again in the Lester Cut, you get to see how that second movie is different from the Donner Cut to the Lester Cut. But then Lester also directs Superman 3, and then that's quite different from Superman 2, you know, and they bring in Richard Pryor, it's a little bit more funny, and, you know, it's like Superman v Superman at one point in that movie, which is great. And then by Superman 4, they kind of forget that this was like a trilogy, you know what I mean? Like, and they kind of go back to the roots. They have Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor come back, but he's in this quest for peace against like the nuclear arms race in the world, and as it was actually going on back in like the 80s and shit, in the 70s. And I actually quite like that movie, but for one sequence where like Superman, Lois, this other chick, and Clark Kent have like this double date scene, and Christopher Reeve has to keep dipping in and out and coming back as Clark and then leaving, coming back as Superman, you know, like, So it was like this funny double date scene, but with 4 characters, but only 3 people. And like, you know, I really love that sequence, so that's why I like Superman 4. But, you know, watching Man of Steel last night and then starting Dawn of Justice, I really enjoy the Zack Snyder verse as well. And I like how different it is from James Gunn's Superman, right? So I don't think it's a problem to go watch that Superman and then watch James Gunn's and enjoy them both. Enjoy what you like, people. Don't let anybody online or anybody, one of your friends, tell you that, oh, you like James Gunn's Superman? Oh, you're gay. You should only like Zack Snyder stuff. Like, that's stupid. Like, that's so dumb. Like, you can like whatever the hell you want. You can like the Christopher Reeve ones. You can like the Man of Steel. You can like the new one. You can like all of them. Go ahead and do your thing. It's not that big a problem. You know, like, I feel like there's been this debate for so many years of Marvel or DC, and DC fans can't be Marvel fans, and Marvel fans can't be DC fans. I'm a fan of all types of movies. If you've seen the channel, you know, like, I'm not just a Marvel fan or DC fan. I'm a fan of both, but I'm also a fan of, like, weird, obscure movies. Like, you know, things that rom-coms and things that have nothing to do with Superman, you know, like, you can enjoy whatever you want to enjoy in this world. So go ahead, watch these movies, enjoy them. I would love to hear your thoughts on James Gunn's Superman, but also your thoughts on Superman in a whole. You know, what's your favorite Superman out of the, what is this, 8, 9, 10, 11 movies? Out of the 11 Superman movies, and I did throw in Zack Snyder's Justice League as well, but out of the 10 and 11 movies that I selected there, what is your favorite Superman and what is your least favorite? I'd love to see that ranking down in the comment section below. Drop your score out of 5 or 10 stars for Superman, James Gunn's Superman. And if you guys haven't gone check this out in theaters, I highly recommend going and checking this out in theaters. I can't wait to see it a second time myself. But that's another movie review. Thank you guys so much for coming on by. If you made it this far in the video and you'd like to support me in my other social medias, links for those down in the description below. If you made it this far and you'd like to support the channel, the best way to do that is liking this video, commenting down below, subscribing if you haven't already, and hitting that bell so you don't miss future movie reviews when those come out. Once again, my name's Big Cam. Thank you guys so much for coming on by, and I will see you beautiful people in the next one. Peace!